The best of Bobby Slowik or the worst, however you look at it. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Happy 4th of July weekend to all. However you celebrate, whether you're going crazy tomorrow, whether you've already started going crazy tonight, or whether you got to work and you're going to have less traffic, happy 4th to all. Shout out to Bob Tack, who is a sponsor of this video. I'll tell you how they can keep you safe at work a little later on. But I thought this would be an interesting exercise because we've talked a lot about Nick Caley, the new OC for the Houston Texans, and rightfully so. I think that he is the most important piece of this football team. How he functions is going to control a lot of things for this team. The ceiling, we don't know how high it is, and the offense is going to depend on that. But the floor, when you have as good of a defense as they do, and you're in as weak of a division, the floor right there, you're going to be competing with a playoff spot, regardless of how the offense functions. And it functioned very poorly last year on the back end with Bobby Slowik after a very, very strong first year in which he was getting head coaching interviews. And we were wondering if maybe he would be there not for long. Wasn't there for long, but it wasn't for the same reason that we talked about leading in to the season. I wanted to go through my favorite interactions with Bobby Slowik, and I had some good ones, but I also had some interesting ones. And I think if you listen to these interactions, first of all, obviously we're a few weeks away from the season, so the content's probably a little bit slower. But also, I think it kind of shows the downward spiral and where Bobby Slowik kind of lost control of things and was unable to really lead the room and take him to the next step whenever adversity struck. Let's start first with Bobby Slowik. He had said this for probably 5 straight weeks. He had said that the run game was close. Finally, I just decided when he spoke on a Thursday to ask him, okay, you say that you're close, but you've been saying that for a long time. So can you really be close? This is interaction number 1 that I had with Bobby Slowik on being close.
What specifically to run the ball effectively needs to be done to not be close anymore? Because it seems like we've been saying that for a few weeks. Like what needs to be done to get the run game that y'all are trying to get?
Yeah, it's really, the run game is one where everybody has to be tied together. I think we keep referencing how close we are as far as like the conviction in what we're doing, and that showing up on tape, regardless of what we're going against. We had it the first week against Indianapolis, and then what happens usually is you start going against different schemes, and it plays out very different, and then it kind of weighs you down for a while, and it's taken longer than we all would have wanted to get back to what we want to do across the board. And then once that's rolling, which it's starting to get there, and then everybody's seeing it the same way. The back seeing the same spot that he has to hit. The O-line really seeing the same crease that we want to get to. And that takes time. We got to we're running out of time, but we got to get to a point where everybody's seeing it the same way pretty fast. And that's what we mean when we say close. It's showing up more now than it has in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. So it really made no sense when he said that it was close. And that was one of the more confusing things is there was always like half-hearted optimism with Slowik. And sometimes I feel like his honesty almost got him in trouble because he was almost too honest and kind of showed essentially kind of how clueless he was. The next thing, and this was something else that he said a lot, and you heard Caserio say it and you heard D'Amico say it, was, well, we went to the line of scrimmage and there was a surprising look. And the question is, okay, there's a surprising look. You're close for 5 weeks and there's a surprising look. How do you adjust to that? Are you not prepared? Is there not any freedom to adjust? Like, what the hell does that mean? Here's Bobby interaction 2 on surprising looks.
and you have a pretty good grasp of what a defense is going to do.
We talked to you about like certain play calls and stuff. And I've heard you and D'Amico, and I think I heard Casseri the other day say, well, they didn't give us the look that we thought they would give us. What does that mean? Does that mean you're going to the line of scrimmage and you're not recognizing? Does it mean they're out thinking you, you're underthinking them? What does that mean?
That's a good question, because I do say that a lot, and I don't know if I've ever actually expanded upon it. So generally, you go into a game, right, and you have a pretty good grasp of what a defense is going to do. Everybody these days, there's a large volume by and large that most teams do, especially when you include pressures and things like that. But generally, you go into a game trying to make sure that you're attacking what you believe they're going to do against you, right? Nobody just lines up. Say you think it's going to be a man game. Nobody just lines up and it's like, okay, we're going to play man 100% of the time. You know, that's just not really the NFL these days. So what typically happens is you have this top thing that's on your mind, and then you have this subcategory of things that you got to have like answers for, be able to handle within your own play design, within the players going and executing their job and doing what they want to do. So when we say, for example, if I say I'm calling a play for Tank, I'm probably calling a play thinking that Tank is going to get the ball if we get the coverage we're expecting. If we don't get the coverage we're expecting, we have other answers on the field that our quarterback's going to get to. Or in the run game, I might call a zone play thinking we're going to get some certain look or certain front. And, man, we'll be able to get inside downhill fast as we can. Well,
so in this one, it almost kind of felt, and I think I might ask the follow-up here. I'm kind of reliving this with y'all. It almost feels like he's saying it's not just before the snap, it's player, all that. Let's hear some more.
All of a sudden, they've stemmed their front, and now they got a whole lot of bodies inside the tackles. We either got to build in a can, or we got to figure out a way where we can block and handle that where we're not going backwards. We're still getting 3 yards of carry. So it's really built into, like, it's a lot of preparation. It's how you build it into the game plan. It's not necessarily how you call it, if that makes sense. You just got to make sure you have answers for what is going to be presented to you as you go.
Call it.
And how that always comes together is what's fun about the game planning process, because every week is different. Even when you play division opponents and you play them the second time, like the combination of things or the people they have out there is different than it was the first time.
It's not just the players not getting the look, the code, like there's a lot of layers to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's why for us, like, practice is so important in what we do. You know, I mean, there's so, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, you talk about, I really believe it's the hardest thing to do in sports. The physical strain they have to deal with, the pocket they have to deal with, and the contact that they have to deal with that they aren't even ready for, on top of being able to throw, on top of the mental strain. And the mental strain for really everyone in the NFL at that position is immense. Like there's a lot. So meeting time's important, preparation's important. Every rep we get out in practice is important.
Okay. And this was kind of a situation where you could kind of see that Bobby was probably a little bit drained, but it was an ongoing thing. And I think the fact that everything was so ongoing probably contributed to the firing. But as simple as they gave us a look that we weren't expecting, like at some point, that's kind of a coaching thing. And I'm not even bringing up, and we're going through the best of Bobby Slowik, people in the stream. Happy 4th of July to you. I'm going through this just as kind of an exercise to kind of relive it as the slow time is upon us, and as we talk about Nick Caley. And I also, after we hear the best from Slowik, I kind of want to get into what is at stake with Nick Caley as the offensive coordinator. The obvious is already there, but what exactly is at stake? We'll get into that, but I didn't even get into the halftime adjustment thing, because he kind of said that halftime adjustments weren't a thing, and this was on the aftermath of him kind of saying that it was. It's just whatever the hell he was talking about. Really, really interesting. But let's hear now Bobby Slowik. This was really very frustrating to watch last year. And quite frankly, I don't understand. This was really confusing from Bobby Slowik, and it was pretty embarrassing on his end. When we went to training camp, Joe Mixon was catching the ball out of the backfield. And it wasn't just dump offs. He was catching wheel routes. They were lining him up in the slot. And it's kind of one of his strengths. That is very an underrated aspect of a guy who's considered a complete back is the fact that Joe Mixon can catch the ball out of the backfield. Even when he was in Cincinnati and they had one of the best receiving groups in the league, he was catching the rock out of the backfield. For whatever reason, the Texans did not use Joe Mixon in that area. And it doesn't make sense in any scenario, but it makes even less sense when Stephon Diggs has a season-ending injury, Tank Dell has a season-ending injury, Nico Collins is out for an extended period of time, and there's times where you probably got to find other ways outside of lining up John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson and Robert Woods. You got to find other ways to move the ball through the air and maybe keep the defense on their toes. They didn't do it. And I asked Bobby Slowik about it, and I'll be damned if he said what the hell he said. Here was Bobby Slowik's explanation for that.
What do you think of Mixon's ability as a receiver? And do you think there's been more opportunity to maybe get him involved in that area a little bit more?
Yeah, I think he's a really good receiver, actually. I know, we worked it a lot in camp. Like I'm sure all you guys saw that. We did a good amount of it in camp. We did some of it early in the year. And I think as the year has gone, probably have gotten away from that a little bit, wanted to make sure he was fresh for some of his carries, but without a question, that's something that's on my mind and been on my mind. Like, how can we make sure we make use of a guy that we think is an excellent player?
Okay. This question, he said, it's been on my mind. This was in January. So we're in January, and Bobby is saying that he's thinking about getting Mixon involved in the pass game. It might be a little too late, or it probably could have happened a little bit earlier than that, Coach. I didn't get that at all. That's damn it, Bobby worthy.
Damn it, Bobby.
Then we go to the next one, and this one was another one based on the actual words out of Bobby's mouth. So the Texans went through about a month and a half, 2-month stretch where in the second half, they didn't score a touchdown. I think it was 5+ games, 6 games, whatever it was. And much like you kept hearing certain things from Bobby explaining the offense, which kind of seemed like the norm, he kept saying it's abnormal. It's abnormal. It's not us. It's not us. It's not us. And it's like, well, at what point does it become you? So I asked Bobby Slowik about normal versus abnormal, and this is what he said. And I actually kind of enjoyed this interaction.
I think y'all have one touchdown on offense the last 6 weeks in the second half, and you've used the word abnormal, and you've said that's not who we are. With that large of a sample size, what makes you so confident that it's not who you are and it's abnormal?
The tape. I mean, just when you watch the film, you could see how close, just like the first half when we make plays, the second half we haven't been making plays. I know our quarterback's history is that he's an extremely, extremely efficient and good 2-minute quarterback, and that's not going to go anywhere. And I mean, how close we are
2 of 30
really, really throughout the season on a lot of these plays in the second half is we're right there. And, you don't just change because all of a sudden he blows a whistle at halftime and we go in the locker room for 2 minutes and come out and now we're completely different people. Like we believe in the process. And the process here is very sound, and our players believe in the process. And like I said, like we can see it. It's been different the last 3-4 weeks, and eventually it's just the nature of sports that's going to manifest itself on the field.
Okay, well, it never quite did, but that's an interesting takeaway, and you can kind of feel for Bobby here. This is part of the gig. He's got to answer the questions, regardless of how comfortable or uncomfortable he is. But that's a tough sell there. Finally had to ask him this. We got a couple more with Bobby, and then we'll get into the stakes of Nick Caley. But are you the right guy for the job, Bobby? Like straight up, We're watching this offense falter. We're looking at you. Look at you. You look exhausted. Are you the right guy for the gig, sir?
Maybe y'all should change what you've been doing offensively.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't changed big picture. There's been changes. I can assure you of that. But there's been you're always making subtle adjustments. I mean, you're talking through the week, you're talking in game, you're talking what we do at halftime. Like, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things.
Why should people believe that Bobby Slowik is the guy that's going to get this offense back on track?
Well, I think it really starts with, I mean, for me and where I'm at is always starts with the organization. You know, I think from there, it's really the players. Do the players believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we can go operate and execute? Does the staff, does everyone else in the organization believe in what we're doing, what we're putting out there, how we're constructing the offense, and how we're trying to go about what we're doing with the offense? And I mean, honestly, from there, you play with the standard that you believe in, and eventually you go get it done.
Whew. It's a tough one for old Bobby Slowik. It was clear he wasn't the right guy for the job. And there was another thing that he kept saying. He kept talking about what we do. And I just asked him, well, what do y'all do well? This one was tough because this made me feel like I wasn't at the same games that Bobby Slowik was when he was describing the offense during the struggles. Like, what do you do well, Bobby? And this is a good exercise because it just kind of shows this guy that he wasn't ready. He started out well and he wasn't ready. And this is a good exercise. And maybe he gets ready. And this is the rough beginning and he gets better for it. It just wasn't going to happen here.
Like extra time that goes into maybe figuring out when the offense is struggling. What was the value of the bye week for you?
Yeah. You know, I think I kind of hit it last week. Like most of it was deep diving into us. You know, it started as some other stuff with some opponents, but really what it became was a deep dive into us and honing in on what we're good at and what we need to continue to do every week. Which I think we had a lot of confidence built over the bye week and leading into this last week in what we wanted to do and how we wanted to attack. And I mean, the plays were out there for us and we didn't quite make them. You know, a lot of the times as we were trying to stay on the field. And I don't know what that is. Was it rust? Was it, I'm not sure, but I know if we continue to do that, like these are things we've proven that we've done really well. And we're all really confident. Like if we keep getting ops, we're going to make those plays and at the end of the day, make more than we miss. So that really is what the bye week was for us. It was, hey, what do we do really well? How do we hone in on this?
What do we do well?
And just continue to execute those things.
What would you say y'all do really well?
Yeah, well, I can't give all the secrets, you know, but I would say explosives would be the number one thing, you know. If you keep it fairly generic, our quarterback's really good at throwing explosives. We got really good skills. We got a really good running back. We got a great tight end. We got guys that, you know, can stretch the field if they need to and also can catch the ball underneath and run for it. So I think, like, if you take out last week, which I don't know if we had an explosive, maybe we had one. And yet we still are ranked like 6th in the NFL going into last week. We were somewhere in the top 3. And we've been there pretty much the entirety of the last year and a half, you know, so that would probably be the number one thing that jumps out. You know, at any time, if we get what we want, that the players can just make.
That's not anything to say about your scheme or anything like that. That was a toughie by Bobby. And then to cap this off and put a bow on the Bobby thing. We'll talk about the identity of the offense with Bobby Slowik, the old I word. But when he couldn't even really say what they did well. Identity, I don't know how important identity is. I think sometimes it's just kind of one of those blowhard talking points. But let's hear what Bobby said that the identity was. Man, this was a rough go for Bobby.
Identity, how would you describe y'all's identity on offense?
Yeah, I think the identity is what you show on tape. You know what I mean? And as I said, that's been a moving target often this year. And I think we've honed in on what that is, and we're going to go and we're going to put that out there. We're going to execute that to the best of our ability. And hopefully by the end of every game you guys watch, you guys could tell me.
Wasn't good. That's the perfect way to say it. It wasn't good. So pour one out for Bobby Slowik. I think those interactions were interesting. It's kind of a good case study in what life was like for Bobby Slowik on the back end. It wasn't great, to say the very least. Something that is great though, and I'm a big fan of it, and it's been nice to get to know these guys. My friends at Bob Tech. Bobby's been in the business for 45 years. His son Reed, he's right there side by side with him. Locally owned and operated since 2016. They're right there in Pasadena. You can text them right now. It's July 4th. Don't be shy. Text them if you need some safety equipment for work. 409-744-8225. You can call it. You can go to bobtech.com. They got you covered. Anything and everything. Safety supplies, PPE, spill control products, trucking, maritime supply, gloves, FR coveralls, protective clothing, everything that you want. Even if you want to get the team hydrated, you got that. If you work in chemical plants, local trucking, maritime companies, local businesses that need safety supplies, you can call them 24/7. You're going to pay less. You're going to get more. Great prices, unmatched service. They specialize in the local customer service, and they are locally owned, which is something that I love. So if you work in a chemical plant industry, the trucking, maritime industry, any local business that needs safety supplies, give them a call anytime. You can text too, because it is a real phone number, and they're going to take care of you. And if you don't like the price, call them. They'll talk to you. It's not one of these AI companies. They're not putting you behind. So if you need some safety supplies at work, 409-744-8225 or bobtech.com, and they'll get you covered for sure. I do think that the Nick Caley thing is interesting. I did talk to Stoots though today, and what the players say specifically on offense, it just holds such little value to me, because they were saying a lot of good things about Bobby Slowik, and rightfully so. He had a good first year, but I don't take what these players are saying and really put a lot of stock into it. I need to see the actions when it comes to the offense. I 100% need to see the actions. And I need to see them figure out how effective they're going to be, and what their identity is going to be, and what Nick Caley is going to be as a staff. We don't know what Nick Caley is going to be. Right now, the excitement, it's very simple. It's not because of what Nick Caley does. It's because he's not Bobby Slowik. That's where the excitement is. Now, there's a lot of reasons to perhaps be excited about him, but that's what it is. He's not Bobby Slowik. But what if it had more to do with the players than we're giving it credit for? What if CJ Stroud was regressing and it wasn't all Bobby Slowik's fault? What if Titus Howard's just not a good player? What if some of these other guys that are talking? What if Joe Mixon starts to wear down? We got to see it from Nick Caley. If it's a middle of the road offense, is that enough? What are we expecting Nick Caley to do? Because with that offensive line last year, I don't know how much better things could get. I think it got worse. You could clearly see that Bobby Slowik was overwhelmed, but how much better was it going to get? He's not Bobby. That's the bottom line. That's what it is. But I'm not completely buying the hype. I'm at least going to have a healthy amount of skepticism just based on what we just went through with Bobby Slowik. Because that guy that we just watched, those 7 clips, 6 months before that, he was interviewing for head coaching jobs. Think about that. Life can come at you pretty fast. Now, I do like that Caley has been a position coach. I do like that Nick Caley has the background he has. I do like that Laramie Tunsil's not on the team anymore. I do like that Stephon Diggs is not on the team anymore. I was fine with him last year. I'm glad they didn't bring him back, though. But life comes at you fast when it comes to this.
Damn it, Bobby.
It just kind of does. Let's go to the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
The man, the myth, the legend, HDAV. Happy July 4th to you, my friend. Shout out to everyone riding along the final 20 days before camp begins. I'm just very much ready for camp. That is 100% the thing that I am very much looking forward to. Very pumped about this. Very, 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 very pumped about this. Knuckles on the chat. Shout out to Knuckles. He says valid points. The opportunities were there at times, but Bobby ain't making it. No, he made it worse. He made it worse. And look, there's a robotic nature that goes with being a film guy, being a guy who's never had to lead men. I don't think there's any set in stone qualifications for being a coach. I don't think there's any of those. But I do think that at least leading a position group and leading a group of guys is valuable, especially whenever adversity hits. And I also think that in year one, Bobby Slowik really wasn't. There were some voices in the room, but CJ Stroud was a rookie. He didn't know any better. Nico Collins is just going to go about his business no matter what. You had Devin Singletary, you had Damian Pierce, and then you had Laramie Tunsil just kind of doing his own thing and guys following along trying to be cool like Laramie. They brought in Joe Mixon. They brought in Stephon Diggs. CJ Stroud got a little bit more confidence. And the fact that you've never really had to lead a position group and you've kind of been able to follow along with Shanahan and you don't have that type of background, it becomes a little bit more difficult. And that's where the value is in Nick Caley's upbringing. I'm excited about the upbringing, but here's the question I have about Nick Caley. This is my question about Nick Caley. What is at stake with Nick Caley at OC? Like, what is at stake with that? The obvious is right there. Like, obviously, he's got to perform at a good level. He's got to call good plays, wins, losses, taking the next step. Clearly at stake. But what if it doesn't work? Does it just mean that? And we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're not going to know this in 1 year. But does it mean that Nick Caserio is on the hot seat? Does it mean that D'Amico Ryans, like you're questioning D'Amico Ryans? Again, I don't think it's, even in the worst case scenario, I don't think they're going to be a god-awful football team. And I actually salute D'Amico and Caserio for making the move after winning back-to-back division titles and advancing to the divisional round 2 years in a row. I don't know that Bill O'Brien does that. Doesn't matter, AFC South champs. But if it doesn't work, and I think the stakes are higher, obviously. I think the expectation should be higher. Like, what's the consequence? Do we start to question if D'Amico Ryans has a blind spot for the offensive side of the rock? Do we question Nick Caserio? Because the two offensive coordinator hires for me, I think it's the perfect example. Maybe they just wipe the slate clean and they start over and they try to meet in the middle. And we're kicking the can down the road, trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do with CJ Stroud. Because that's the other thing. The most expensive years of CJ Stroud's career are at stake when it comes to Nick Caley. Like he's going to, after his first year, CJ is going to be eligible for the extension. But the first hire was clearly a D'Amico hire. It was a guy that he knew that he came up with in San Francisco. It was a system that he likes. It was a system that he came through. It was a system that Nick Caserio didn't know anything about. Nick Caserio basically said he was learning on the job when it came to this offensive system. Then he left, and a guy who worked for Nick Caserio, worked under Nick Caserio in New England. He ends up rolling up here. And you're not running the Patriot system, we don't think, but we don't know. But there's going to be parts of it, I would assume, that Nick Caserio is very familiar with. So what happens if on one side, the two guys that are overseeing things, the two guys who work together, the two guys who put this team together and put this roster together, what happens if it doesn't work when it's D'Amico's guy and Caserio compromises, and then it doesn't work when it's Caserio's guy and D'Amico kind of compromises? What happens? There's a lot at stake. Because if you're looking for, if Nick Caley is going to be 2 and done, then you got to hope that it's because he was just so effing awesome that all of a sudden he's coaching somewhere else. Because if he's 2 and done, and let's say it goes like the Bobby Slowik thing did, then you're in trouble. Because then all of a sudden you're talking about CJ Stroud with the third OC, maybe third system, who knows? You're in trouble. I mean, this is a high stakes hire. This is why right now during the downtime, this is why this is what the focus is. It's the most important thing. What the hell is Nick gonna do?
Nick.
And is he in position to succeed? Is Nick Caley in position to succeed? I think this defense makes your life a lot easier as an offensive coordinator. But is he in position to succeed? And if he's not in position to succeed, why is it? Is it because they weren't able to invest as much in the offense as they could? You can only invest so much. You got to fix the receiving group. You got to fix some other things. But why would it be? Is he in position? Like, what would be the ultimate success for Nick Caley look like? I don't know that I have like a statistical thing, but let's say they're a top, best case scenario, let's say they're a top 12 to 14 offense, DVOA offense, which is an advanced, nerdy-ass way to look at things, but top 12 to top 14 DVOA offense. I think that would be excellent with what Caley has to work with. If this is a top 10 offense, then that would be excellent. But even then, that might not be enough to get where a lot of people want them to get. Depending on how good the defense is. So maybe if it doesn't work, and maybe if the stakes don't work, maybe they just get together, they put their heads together, and they figure some stuff out. My question is, what's at stake here? Are we just going to keep doing this? Killer X God says our season is on the O-line, period. Okay, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel good? I would say no. Would Louis Riddick be an option? No, would not. On the super chat,
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
320 says, I'm here trying to force the look they want versus just feeling the game like someone who has talent does. Adapting is so important. Yeah, and I don't think Bobby Slowik was adapting. I don't think he was handling pressure well, and I don't think he was adapting. But he's just got to be able to overcome his shortcomings, his personnel shortcomings, Nick Caley. But I mean, this is the first time that he's going to call plays. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I have no problem with having a first-time play caller. But he's going to have to adapt. He's going to have to figure it out. And then we'll see how CJ looks, and we'll see how the offense looks. But the defense is going to be the straw that stirs the drink. Greg says we need to stop making excuses. We have the team to win it all, and the team is loaded. I think it's a talented football team. I think it's a good football team. Real good football team. especially on the defensive side of the rock. There's really no excuse. Like, it's not like they're young. It's not like they're not battle tested. Yeah, I don't think there's really like a ton of excuses for them. But some of the things that are being sold, like, I also just wonder, is that for sure a good thing? CJ Stroud's going to have more control at the line of scrimmage. Okay, we'll see what that looks like. How's that look? Is that a good thing? We know that for a fact that that's good. Probably not being surprised by looks, to go back to what Bobby said, would be good. Go back to those types of like the looks at the line of scrimmage. Maybe figure that out. If Joe Mixon's a good receiver, maybe use him out of the backfield. That might be nice. Frank asked, does Slowik have an assistant? I don't know. I mean, does Gerard Johnson count? I don't know. There's other offensive coaches. There's a lot of other offensive coaches. But your guess is as good as mine here. It's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be an interesting ride. What exactly is at stake? We're almost 3 weeks in. We'll have legit ass talking points 3 weeks in. Right now, a lot of people excited about the Astros. A lot of people excited about the Rockets. Rockets been doing their thing. But it's going to be a fun ride to be on. Bobby Slowik, my gosh, that was a hell of a lot. Enjoy your 4th of July. I am going to enjoy mine. I can promise you that. We're still going to be live on SNL, which might be a little bit looser than usual. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, whether it's Bobby Slowik,
Damn it, Bobby.
or Nick Caley,
Nick.
when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Ayy. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need